Alright, welcome back. Relatively Conscious. My name is Antonio Brown.
Irvin Bryant.
Today we're going to talk about Trump's speech at Mount Rushmore.
The president visited Mount Rushmore for its first fireworks show in a decade and lit into social justice demonstrators seeking to remove monuments, many with Confederate or slave-owning histories.
Our nation is witnessing a merciless campaign to wipe out our history, defame our heroes, erase our values, and indoctrinate our children.
All right.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. So
3rd of July, but for the 4th, yes.
Yeah. So what was it about? What did he talk about?
So, our president, he doesn't like to do speeches in a traditional way. So, State of the Union, Oval Office address, does them as infrequently as possible.
Yeah.
My man likes to campaign. That's really all of his addresses and speeches. Either they are genuine campaign rallies that he's been doing for the entire 4 years, never stops, or he will turn one of his few State of the Unions into a campaign speech. And this one is no different, except it was supposed to be commemorating our independence and was more about maintaining the status quo, which is kind of antithetical to independence, right? Where, okay, we have these ideals, man, forget the money, forget the empire, like our loyalties, none of that. We've got to stand for these ideals. And he said, forget the ideals, man. We got a good thing going here. As white people, we got to keep it. Come on, man. I like being.
I am here as your president to proclaim before the country and before the world, this monument will never be desecrated. These heroes will never be defaced. Their legacy will never, ever be destroyed. Their achievements will never be forgotten, and Mount Rushmore will stand forever as an eternal tribute to our forefathers and to our freedom.
Right. Yeah. So the historical narrative that he tried to weave, right? It's an ideal basically that conservatives are basically like people's. I'm telling the truth about what this country is.
Yes.
Is a issue for some reason, right?
Right.
And it generally boggles the mind.
Yeah, and so it's a problem, and I'll hit it with a little bit of racial criticism, historiography. There's the master narrative, right?
Right.
Basically, the story is told by the victor. So if you win, you get to write the history.
Yeah.
It is not truly fair in that having a different, less advantaged army in one way or another doesn't mean you're a lesser people, and we know that.
Yeah.
So, white people have just won a lot in America, especially within the borders. So, he's like, well, look, we won, and we told the winner's tale, and that should be the end of it. And as there is a racial reckoning in this current moment, where the battles aren't necessarily won by who has more physical force, because when the cops pull up in the riot gear, they win.
Cameraman has been hit. We've also seen tear gas being used. Here we go, they're moving through again. This is exactly what it looks like. Exactly what it looks like. We're just staying safely.
Oh, whoa!
Pretty much every time.
Yeah.
And that imbalance is, and my first thought was, this is the death throes of whiteness. Whiteness is not dying. I would love for that to be the death throes of whiteness, but it's not. These are the fight or flight response, right? Whiteness is seeing it's as an idea. It's seeing itself because it's an invisible race, right? Other people are very well aware of their race in the world, but white people don't think about race. They're not conscious of it, and this is really, like, for the first time in my lifetime, forcing a level of consciousness on the whole of the populace. And it's either straight rejection or the reckoning, that they have to, okay, I have to reckon with this, I have to think about my life. And obviously, the way whiteness, is set up to be, I gotta fight against it. And so it's a whole new flavor of all my heroes are perfect. Slavery dang near didn't exist. I don't know what y'all talking about. And these statues gotta stay up.
Yeah, and to me, it's such a losing battle, because it would make more sense to just be like, hey man, Confederacy traders, just tear them down, but like, hey, tax cuts though for the rich,
You remember that?
You remember that?
Trickle down. Remember that?
Yeah, and it seems like that could work.
Yeah.
And it's
address people's actual concerns and leave the symbolic stuff.
Yeah, and then but the problem is that to do that would be to betray what is how his base views America, right? So, and Fox News does this a lot, right? And it's really weird to watch.
Night.
Yeah, uncanny. But one of the newscasters, I want to say it's Laura Ingram, maybe wrong.
Yeah,
talked about how the segment she talked about the world, the country is changing, right?
Yeah.
Because in some parts of the country, it does seem like the America that we know and love doesn't exist anymore. Massive demographic changes have been foisted upon the American people. And they're changes that none of us ever voted for and most of us don't like. From Virginia to California, we see stark examples of how radically, in some ways, the country has changed. Now, much of this is related to both illegal and, in some cases, legal immigration that, of course, progressives love.
And it's not changing for the better. It's not the America you know anymore, right? And the country is changing. It's getting browner, right? So more Latinos, more
Latinx.
Latinx. Yeah, just more.
More immigration. Yeah,
more immigration, right?
And then there's race mixing, as they used to call miscegenation, as they used to call it. But a lot of people don't care about race and ethnicity, and it used to be illegal, and it's been illegal now for quite a while. So lots of brown babies getting made.
Yeah, people becoming smarter than they used to be, right? So more people with college educations.
Also, a lot of immigrants come here with less economic power, with less education, and those who are more educated and make more money have less children. So I hate to do the whole numbers, population. I think it's very weird. We're not animals, right? We're not like breeding or whatever. But by the numbers, white people, because they have consistently held power in one way or another, just aren't having as many children as everybody else. And so the numbers just have been shifting to where, I believe the white majority is in the 60 percentile, and everybody else is just pushing further and further.
Also, so by 2024, Texas will be majority Latino.
Yes.
And that's 2024, maybe 2030. Technically, next census 2030.
Yeah, next census. Yeah.
And the problem becomes that no longer looks like Leave It to Beaver, right? So now Leave It to Beaver has to have a neighbor who has an umbrella, and then it has to have a neighbor who is a Hispanic, who's a black / mixed family, right?
Right.
And that's not what I remember on TV.
Texas is Asian.
Yeah,
we have a lot of Asian immigrants. Yeah.
And then that's not what I saw on TV though in the 1950s, and that's what I think that's what I'm supposed to believe that America is, right?
Right.
And therefore, I believe that my country is changing, and the stories that were told affects me in a way. Yeah.
Right, and it's the stories that were told back then that were exclusionary.
Yeah.
And that's purely economic, right? Like, if there are more white people with a television set and they want to see Andy Griffith in his very white neighborhood, then that's what they're going to see.
Yeah.
And they don't care what Tony Brown wants to see. But not only is it the fictional narrative, but it's a historical narrative, which is largely fictional, where Christopher Columbus is a hero, where Andrew Jackson is a hero, where in the South, Jefferson Davis is a hero, Robert E. Lee is a hero. And so now even Thomas Jefferson, even George Washington, who are just problematic figures, pretty heroic, they did their thing, but definitely held slaves, and they're definitely consciousness of the moral
dilemma.
The moral dilemma, thank you. And just decided to neglect that and say, I'm going to own these slaves, I'm going to be rich, I don't care. And instead of, like you said, just saying, hey, this is bad. Everybody's done bad things.
Yeah. And
they still accomplished what they accomplished. And some Jefferson Davis does have to get thrown away. He did just a bad thing. Confederacy was a bad idea. Christopher Columbus enslaved people, raped, pillaged. That's just not good. I can let it go. Because their identity, especially political identity, is tied so deeply in these ideas, these statues, the monuments, the
Confederate flag.
Ooh.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so all these symbols, that's the word I was looking for. All these symbols represent so much of their identity and their holiness, their rightness. Because American victory has been framed in the master narrative as one bestowed by God. Manifest Destiny was God ushering America across from sea to shining sea. And if this is righteous, if this is who I am, and this is who we are, And if none of those are really true, like none of the things that make that right and good are true, then I'm a scoundrel.
Yeah.
Then we are a perverse nation that has blood on every single dollar bill.
Yeah.
Now, for people of color, like, oh, that's been the deal since I got here. I mean, cool, you know, whatever. It's been a thing. But for white people, that is frightening.
Also, it made it easy. Like, so things become much easier when like America is righteous and the Russians are wrong, right?
Yeah, and there's a bad guy.
Yeah.
Right. So like we're pushing west, and the Indians got to get out the way.
Yeah, and then, but like from the black point of view, I mean, I don't like communism. I don't want to stand the bread line, right? Yeah. So I can understand the wrongs of capitalism instead of be like, I'm not trying to do that, you know. Right. And I think you know, and as W. Du Bois talks about, right, and then you talk about double consciousness being behind the veil, right. You can see both sides and understand.
Yeah, from behind the veil, you can see everything.
And you can understand which side you choose, right? Where you can deal with the wrongs and understand them.
Yeah.
So what is Trump's strategy for 2020? What does this say about his strategy for 2020?
Right. So if I'm going to defend whiteness, which is a bet, I don't know if it's a safe bet.
Well, as of right now, he's 9 points down. And Texas is looking like a toss-up, right?
It was a safe bet in 2016.
Yeah.
But there weren't true champions of whiteness. Like this trend of the population changing and all that has been a long time coming. People have been getting canceled for racist things. And so when a man stands up, and we already know this, right? To be the one defender, then he's got it in the bag, and he did. But now, as we have a racial reckoning and attitudes change, and we see the full fallout, 2020 is the Trump administration year. We see all the problems producing foul fruit. He's faced with a crossroads of, hey, maybe... Now, this speech did not bode well for the strategy, but maybe instead of doing what I did on July 3rd and calling the protesters those who defamed the name of our heroes instead of just telling the truth, and calling real historians and educators those who want to rewrite history in their image... Instead of doing that and lying, how about I just say, hey, forget all that symbolic nonsense. You're trying to eat today, rich people. Rich people, look. I know Nike had to make a statement. Okay, I know Adidas, all the athletic companies in NFL, Roger Goodell, I know you had to make a statement, but I know what you feel in your heart. Yeah. And it's about the green.
Yeah.
And so I can get on that side, recruit a person of color for my team. Hold up, diversity. Yeah. Karens, come back. I respect women a little bit. Let me get a woman on there. Let me get a person of color on there and make it all cool like it used to be again.
He could do that, but instead he chose not to. Instead he chose to stick with his strategy. And I think right now, the map he's looking at does not look but well. Now, November could come around. I could have egg on my face. I could be wrong, right? Which I hope not. But hey, if I was a betting man, I bet I probably am wrong, right? But the strategy does not look like it's going to work, right? And I think the question becomes, right? So, if he loses, what becomes next for the Republican Party? I think we can address that on another episode. We have more time, right?
Right.
But I think, will it work? I mean, we had to put our bets down today. Is a yes or no for you?
Will diversifying or...
Will his stance, with his defending of whiteness work? The speech on July 3rd, will that work as a strategy going forward?
It is tough to say, because here's the key. Here's what's important. Black Lives Matter has come in waves. And we've seen it all. And the waves do recede. Now, I like the racial reckoning term. I got that from a gentleman who wrote for AP. If this is a real reckoning where we can reconcile and move forward to some degree, I'm not, racism is not over, but if it has staying power, then he's lost. But if the summer ends, the fall comes, and the second wave of corona shocks us in a way unforeseen, if the economic recession hurts us to a degree that is unprecedented, Trump surprised us in 2016. So there's a sliver of a chance that really he could hang on, right? Because he won pretty handily in 2016. I think it would be more of a George Bush in 2000 victory as opposed to George Bush in 2004. Yeah. So he may sweep by on the Electoral College on the second go around. But my hope is that we get a change in administration.
Yeah, to wrap it up, my belief is that we don't know how the voting's going to go, and I think if he does win, it may be because we just were not prepared for November 4th, for November to vote. We didn't have the polling locations, we didn't have the absentee ballots, and people were disenfranchised whole scale. Right now, I don't know what happens afterwards. I think that may result in a racial reckoning that becomes even worse for him. I think if he wins again, he's not gonna like what comes next. But I mean, if he doesn't face the voters again, he can do whatever he wants, right? Wow. So this is Relatively Conscious. This is Relatively Conscious. My name is Antonius Brown.
Irvin Bryant.
Hit those in the comments. Tell us what you think.